Fellow Ghanaians, good evening. I'm happy that I have the opportunity this evening to engage with you again in your homes. I want at the outset to thank all of you for your prayers and expressions of good wishes when doctors advised me to go into quarantine for 2 weeks. God being so good, I'm back again at work. I thank you very much for your concern. It has been a month since I came to provide you an update on the measures being undertaken by my government to combat the coronavirus pandemic. It has been almost 5 months since our lives were turned upside down, and indeed, the whole world was forced into a crisis of unimaginable proportions. This crisis, that dramatically affects lives and livelihoods, has plunged the world into uncharted waters, as even the experts admit that they are having to learn as we go along. This new unknown virus has led the world and its economies to a violent halt and has brought death and fear into our lives. We in Ghana rose to the occasion and introduced measures to protect lives and livelihoods. Fellow Ghanaians, back in March, most of us hoped passionately that the effects of the virus would wane quickly once we took the steps that had been recommended to contain the spread. Even the most hard-headed expert opinion suggested that by the middle of the year, the spread of the virus would be on the wane. We are now at the end of July. The virus is still raging. There's not an effective treatment yet. As time goes on, we, and indeed the world, have come to understand that COVID-19 is not a problem which will go away on its own. Ultimately, salvation will come with an effective and accessible treatment. We hope and pray that this will happen tomorrow, but may very well happen in a couple of months, in a couple of years, or it may take even longer. Until then, we have to learn to adapt to the conditions. It is not normal that we have to wear masks, but now we have to. It is not normal that we cannot shake hands with each other, and it is certainly not normal that we cannot hug our family members and loved ones. But that is our current reality. Until treatment is found, COVID-19 will remain a part of our lives. But life cannot be put on hold indefinitely, and Ghana cannot remain in a never-ending crisis management situation. That is why we've been putting measures in place to restore gradually some normalcy in our social and economic lives as we learn to cope with the reality of the virus. Probably the most significant of these measures has been the gradual opening of the schools to enable final year students at various levels of education finish the school year and take their exams. Since the last time I addressed the nation, we have seen over 750,000 persons, comprising students, teachers, and non-teaching staff in our junior high schools, returning to school to prepare for and sit the basic education certificate examination. Last Monday, the 375,000 final year SHS students who have been in school for 5 weeks started writing the West African Senior Secondary School certificate examination. 127,143 of students in our universities and other tertiary institutions have now all virtually completed their final examinations. The safety and good health of students and staff have been the paramount considerations in the reopening of schools. And we have therefore insisted on full adherence to the enhanced COVID-19 protocols. That is why, as already been widely publicized, we undertook a massive mobilization and deployment of logistics to our educational facilities to help ensure that learning is conducted in an atmosphere of safety as we continue to limit and contain the spread of the virus in our country. All of these reiterate the commitment of government to protect the lives of all those involved in the phased reopenings of our schools. And I will not renege on my obligation towards either our children or their parents. Mercifully, we have witnessed only a few cases of infections in our universities and other tertiary institutions. The few students who tested positive in a few of our senior high schools have all either recovered or are on the path to full recovery and will await the vaccine. And the few final year junior high school students who have tested positive and who are largely asymptomatic are being managed in isolation centers. Government continues to engage with the stakeholders in the education sector to determine the conditions for the future reopening of schools after the current examinations are concluded by mid-September. I will keep you fully informed about the outcomes. 3 days ago, the Minister for Finance, the hard-working, highly patriotic Ghanaian, Ken Ofori-Atta, went to Parliament and gave the country a candid view of the state of affairs of our economy. Not only did he present a compelling review of the efforts put in place over the last 3.5 years to stabilize and grow our economy, he was also able to paint a credible picture of hope for the future, despite the ravages caused by COVID-19. It is reassuring to see working in real life the bold decision to implement a relief, resilience, and recovery plan with the overarching aim of providing relief to the ordinary Ghanaian and being able to find more resources to strengthen the productive sectors of the economy to ensure sustained economic activity. Government was able to feed thousands of our people during the period of the lockdown. From April to June, government gave additional allowance to our healthcare workers, ensured free access to water for all households across the country, fully absorbed electricity bills for 1 million active Lifeline customers, and granted a 50% subsidy on electricity bills of all other customers, using the March 2020 bill as the benchmark. Through the Coronavirus Alleviation Program Business Support Scheme, 600 million cedis is being disbursed to support micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises which have been affected by the economic downturn caused by the pandemic. It bears repeating that some of these incentive packages have been extended for the next 3 months. In my 13th update to the nation, I announced the extension of incentive packages for health workers by another 3 months, i.e. July, August, and September. The Finance Minister's mid-year budget review, he again announced that all Ghanaians are to enjoy free water supply for another 3 months. I intend to have it reviewed at the end of the period. Government is also extending the electricity supply to Lifeline tariff customers until the end of the year. The communication service tax has also been reduced from 9% to 5%, effective September 2020. Once approved by Parliament, a national unemployment insurance scheme will be instituted and will provide temporary income support to workers that have lost their jobs. Government is increasing funding under the CAP Business Support Scheme with an additional 150 million cedis to ensure an increased number of beneficiaries. Furthermore, as indicated by the Minister for Finance, government is establishing a guarantee scheme of some 2 billion cedis to enable businesses access credit at more affordable rates so they can survive and better able to retain jobs. All of these reaffirm our determination to save lives, jobs, and livelihoods, revitalize our economy, and safeguard the future of our country. I assure you that under my watch as President of the Republic, the government will continue to work to create a diversified, transformed economy, fashion a conducive business climate that will deliver development, progress, and prosperity for all Ghanaians. This is my solemn pledge to you. Fellow Ghanaians, we are in the 5th month of the outbreak of COVID-19 on our shores. At first glance, it is alarming to see that 32,969 people have so far contracted the virus. But a closer look at the data will tell you that we are steadily on the path towards limiting and containing the virus and ultimately defeating it. The figure to look out for is the number of active cases. When I delivered update number 13, the number of active cases in the country, i.e. those who, as of 27 June 2020, had the virus, stood at 4,245. As at midnight of 24th July, nearly a month later, the number of active cases in Ghana stands at 3,307. Again, a month ago, the number of recoveries stood at 12,994. Today is 28,927. This means our recovery rate has improved from 75% of positives a month ago to 89.5%, all in 1 month currently. Our hospitalization and death rates have consistently been very low, some of the lowest in Africa and in the world. The Ghanaian people mercifully are not dying of the virus in the hundreds and thousands that were earlier anticipated and predicted, and that are being seen on a daily basis in some other countries. The behavior of this virus has baffled the experts and defied most predictions. But 5 months on, we can say that we're witnessing a much milder manifestation of the virus in this country than was initially feared. The rate of virus-related deaths has remained persistently low at 0.5% of confirmed cases. And I dare say, it is the grace of God and the measures taken by your government with your support that have produced this result. It is also importantly due to the immense dedication and hard work being exhibited by our healthcare workers, who continue to care for those affected by the virus and for the sick in general, and to whom we continue to remain indebted. I must mention at this stage the completion and handing over on Friday of the 100-bed Ghana Infectious Diseases Center at the Ghana East Municipal Hospital. This is a world-class facility which serves as an example of cooperation between the public and private sectors in our country. The project was conceived and executed by a group of private sector people with the wholehearted support of government and the Ghana Armed Forces. In 100 days, they have provided the first infectious diseases center in our country, and we are better able to provide hospital treatment for those in need. This project has been a good example of the generous Ghanaian spirit that has been exhibited since the onset of this crisis. I extend to the trustees and members of the COVID-19 Private Sector Fund the profound gratitude of the nation. It is the reality of the progress of the virus in our country, the measures that we have taken to cope better, and the regular consultations with relevant stakeholders that informed government's decision over a month ago to embark on a strategic, controlled, progressive, safe easing of restrictions to get our lives and economy back to normal. After further extensive consultations, government has taken the decision to embark upon the implementation of Phase 2 of the easing of restrictions in the following sectors of our national life. Our churches and mosques have been open for prayers and services for the past 7 weeks, adhering to 25% occupancy or up to 100 congregants over a time duration of up to 1 hour per service. I extend my deepest appreciation to our religious leaders for their strict adherence to the safety protocols, which have prevented any known outbreaks since they restarted their services. I've sorely missed going to church, as I'm sure many others have. I'm therefore very happy to announce that in consultation with our church leaders, from 1st August 2020, the restrictions on the number of congregants worshiping at a time in church will be lifted, with the length of worship extended from 1 to 2 hours per service. Church leaders who are desirous of implementing this enhanced easing directive must ensure the congregants wear face masks at all times, and the 1 meter social distancing rule is scrupulously applied. These same guidelines apply to worship in our mosques. With greater number of congregants likely to return for worship, I would respectfully ask the religious leaders to pay even greater attention to the fresh air ventilation of their premises, rather than relying on the use of air conditioners. In consultation with the Ghana Tourism Authority and the health experts, I'm announcing the reopening of our nation's tourist sites and attractions so they can begin to receive visitors. Open-air drinking spots can now function. The management of these facilities are tasked to enforce enhanced hygiene and social distancing protocols. Beaches, pubs, cinemas, and nightclubs, however, remain closed until further notice. Our female under-20 and under-17 national football teams have been given the clearance to go into their respective training camps to begin preparations towards their FIFA and CAF-sanctioned international matches, which begin in September. Whilst in training, the playing, technical, and management teams must observe strictly all the protocols issued by government, CAF, and FIFA against COVID-19. All other team and contact sports and competitive sporting events remain suspended till further notice. In consultation with the Ministers of Transport and Aviation and the leadership of transport operators, government has taken the decision to lift the restrictions in the transport sector and allow for full capacity in our domestic airplanes, taxis, trotros, and buses. The wearing of masks in vehicles and aircrafts and the maintenance of enhanced hygiene protocols remain mandatory. Private burials, still with a maximum of 100 persons, can continue to be performed. Our borders, by air, land, and sea, remain closed until further notice for human traffic. However, given that there are Ghanaian residents stranded abroad, special dispensation will continue to be given for the evacuation of our nationals and residents back to Ghana, where they will be subjected to the mandatory quarantine and safety protocols. As I have said before, the phased opening up of our country puts an individual obligation and responsibility on each one of us. It means that we must continue to remain vigilant and respect the enhanced hygiene, mask wearing, and social distancing protocols that have become part and parcel of our daily routine. We dare not ruin the successes we have chalked over this period. There will always be those who will peddle untruths and embark on deliberate misinformation campaigns, especially in this era of fake news. In their irresponsible bid to score cheap points, they escalate mistrust and heighten unnecessarily the anxiety levels over the disease in the country. As we work towards defeating this virus, we should reject completely those who seek to perpetuate falsehood, thereby creating fear and panic, and call them out when they do. Truth will always, in the end, triumph over lies. Our fight against the stigmatizations of persons who have contracted COVID-19 continues in earnest. Those engaged in this antisocial act should stop, as stigmatization drives away people from getting screened, tested, and treated. The virus is no respecter of persons, and the overwhelming majority of persons who have tested positive recover, indeed have recovered, and are living perfectly normal lives and pose no danger to anyone. These changes I have announced transition us into a new phase of our COVID-19 fight, in which we teach ourselves how to live responsibly with coronavirus. We do not expect to go back to the way things were 5 months ago, but we should create a new normal where we're constantly figuring out how to go to work, keep our businesses and places of worship open, send our children to school, and all the time keeping safe, containing the spread of the disease, and acting swiftly where and whenever hotspots appear. This is the new second phase we're entering today. Responsible behavior, continuing state support, and living in grace. This government is resolved and determined in this second phase to help Ghanaians fully return to their daily routines, whether it be going to work, going to school, going to a funeral, or going to worship, all the while taking full precautionary measures to protect ourselves and our families from the virus. Enuanom, medamu nyinaa se modwen me ho adwen pa na mbobɔ mpaeɛ maa me. Emra Dr. Fokan say, me said them na otwe mienu. Nyankopɔn adɔ aroma, bɔne biara nka me. Enti ndaseɛ na mede ma mu nyinaa. Anyame me, minda nya fe hyiake. Yehia mi, hedwamo papa, ni nye sɔre ha mi, beni datrefo wo mi ngake, nhotumi, ochie enyo. Numodromona, efonko, ni naami. Noyo, inkeshida, ehanye fe. Fellow Ghanaians, I have never wavered in my deeply held conviction that if each one of us embraces the safety protocols and we continue to put our faith in the Almighty, we will emerge strongly from this crisis. This too shall pass, for the battle is the Lord's. May God bless us all in our homeland, Ghana, and make her great and strong. I thank you for your attention, and good night.